Welcome back, everyone. Hoping everybody's enjoying their summer so far. Hope the kitties are doing productive things. We should tell you that it is quite hot outside. So, if you are able to do things indoors, we suggest that with high expectancy because it is hot
It is hot.
outside. But welcome back. It's hot. It's hot.
Yeah, it's real
Welcome
hot.
back.
I
Welcome
mean, welcome back.
back.
Yes, it's super hot. I got in my car today and it was 100 degrees and it stayed 100 because it gives the outside temperature. It was 100 degrees
Uh-huh.
from where I left to when I got home. Because sometimes it's like, oh, that's what it is because the car was sitting in the sun. No, that's what it was. It was 100
It
degrees.
was 100 degrees. It was
100
100
degrees.
degrees. And listen, inside the garage is 98 degrees. It's when I say it's hot, it's hot.
It be hot
So
outside.
if you could keep the kids inside until like 5:30, 6 o'clock,
Or if they're
uh,
outside, make sure they hydrate.
hydrate and make sure they have some sunscreen on. It's hot. It's hot, people. And this is one example of global warming because some temperatures are so high that these are record highs. So
Yeah.
just be very, very careful. If you haven't gone to our page on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe. We're on YouTube, Facebook. We sometimes do some things on Instagram, depending on if we got some time.
Mm-hmm.
But just go on our page, like, share, and subscribe. My name is Narnique Nikki Grant. If this is the first time you're coming on here, I'm co-host of Race and Racist, and then Sandra.
Yeah, I'm here too, one of the hosts of Race and Races, all things race and politics, and that's what we're talking about today.
Well, yeah, we're talking about race and politics.
Today.
So, from my understanding, over the weekend, or yeah, was it over the weekend or just a few days ago, we had Florida Blue.
Yeah, it was this weekend. It was so
It was
okay.
this
So we refer to it as Florida Blue, but it's Leadership Blue, and
Leadership Blue,
it's Leadership Blue. Don't get it confused with Florida Blue, the insurance policy. It's Leadership Blue,
right?
but a lot of us refer to it as Florida Blue, but it's Leadership Blue, and it's where the Democrats come together and try to figure out how they're going to strategize, for all the stuff that they're doing. This is a very important time because we have we have the elections in 2024, the presidential elections in 2024,
Correct.
along with some other very important key races. So they're coming
Mm-hmm.
together, preparing and, teaching people how to engage the community, what they're going to do on voters' right, voter protection. They're also trying to find out candidates that they want to support because one of the things Democrats have been complaining about is candidate quality has been an issue in
Mm-hmm.
terms of the people that the Democratic Party has decided to put forth to run in very key races. So it's a lot of strategizing by the party trying to figure out how they're going to, win and get people elected in 24.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's also a time where our messaging comes out for the state of Florida, what the messaging would look like, what we're going to be focusing on, what direction we'll be taking in the state of Florida, and just as Sandra mentioned about candidate quality. But there was some highlights. I wasn't able to attend any of the events prepared, and in order to see some of the events or participate virtually, there was a fee associated with that. I believe. So I wasn't able to do that. I know Sandra saw a few things on social media when some people who were there went live. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that happened. You want to start? And so we can kind of discuss some of the things you think. You're on mute.
Yeah, we can start there. But before I talk about Leadership Blue, I want to give a shout out to the dog loving community. Right. I got to give a special shout out to the dog loving community. We lost our dog yesterday. Right. Well, it wasn't we because I wasn't there. But between the twins and my mama, my dog went missing. Okay.
Oh,
What's up with the dog? We couldn't find the dog at all. Right. And then, luckily she's registered in Broward, but she was in Miami-Dade. And I'm going to make sure I register her there, but she wasn't registered in Miami-Dade. She got lost in Miami-Dade. I got a call this morning from Animal Control in Broward and from another lady that was calling me frantically because they found my dog. Because she had the tag and she was registered in Broward, they notified them and Broward notified me that the person found my dog. The dog was safe. The lady took a picture, sent it to me. I couldn't go and pick her up right in that moment because I be having to work for a living, you know what I'm saying? And I can't always just leave my job. So I understand people who can't leave their jobs. And she took the dog to my mom's house. She went and dropped the dog off to my mom's house for me. We got the dog back. She's not back at our house yet because I haven't gone to pick her up. But I got to give her the dog community. That is different. I'm telling you about
they 10 toes down out here, man.
All hands on deck. They about to network find. They about to share the pictures. I mean, my dog picture was kind of places I didn't even know existed. All right. So I got a new introduction to a new tribe of folks. So thank you, dog community, for helping us get our dog back. But I think what was key was the fact that she was registered and they were able to confirm who owned her and where she belongs. And they had my phone number and they were able to contact me. So if you don't have your dog registered, I'm thinking about adding the chip. Important. I don't think she doesn't have a chip, but she does have a tag that if you scan it, all of the info is going to come up. So, but I'm thinking of going ahead and just adding the chip if it's not too stressful for her because she is an older dog. But I tell you, shout out to the dog lovers. All right.
Let me tell you, they 10 those down. Both my dogs are chipped. I think there's a fee. I pay $10 a month for them, and that is the best thing ever because my dog took off running one time or whatever, and if it wasn't for the chip, I wouldn't have found him. So, and that community, they're 10 toes down, 10 hands in. They are a wealth of information, and also they're there to protect all animals.
Yeah, they're looking out.
Trust me.
Shout out to that community. I tell you.
Shout out. Completely wonderful. I'm glad you got your dog back. Princess out here just roaming the streets. What's she doing? All right, so let's get into this Florida Blue.
Leadership Blue.
Leadership Blue.
We can call it Florida Blue. The people who know what we're talking about. All right. So so Leadership Blue went on this weekend, and there were just two things about it. I mean, they talked about a lot of stuff, right? Because there's about 3 ballot initiatives that they're working on. One of them is the water, about the water. There's a initiative on water, and of course, there's one on abortion. I'm gonna refer to it as reproductive rights because that's really what it is.
That's what it is. Yep.
So they had an initiative on that. Then they do training on Robert Rules of Order and all of these different things, right? But a couple things stood out. One was the guest speaker. That was one. And then the other one was that they had a part of the performance for the entertainment was that they had a drag performance. And you tell me what you thought about that, and I'm going to tell you what I thought about that.
All right. So just so my thing is that there's so many things I think as Democrats that we can hone in on and focus and make and be intentional about. And doing a drag show, in my opinion, is not. I'm not sure what the message was where that was concerned, but I just don't think that in a leadership event form within that magnitude was the place for that. I think that we should have focused more on issues that affect Democrats collectively. Excuse me, I'm tripping all over my words today. And the guest speaker, I'm not sure if that was a good idea to have someone.
I'm gonna tell you his name.
You want to tell the name?
Yeah, I'm gonna tell his name. I knew the name, and then I kind of forgot the name. But he was an actor that was on The West Wing, and I think he played the president or something like that. What's his name? I saw my emails are just getting all messed up. But I'm gonna look for it. If you look while I'm talking, can you look at one of the?
I'm gonna look. Yeah, I'm gonna look it up.
One of the messages from the desk. She talked about who it is that was coming, and they were excited about that. But my thing on the drag show, for example, and I'm not, listen, don't come for me, because I'm very inclusive and tolerant and all that kind of stuff. So don't come for me. Only thing I want to say about that is this. So we as Democrats have way too much to do. We are behind the 8 ball in the state of Florida right now. That's why Republicans have a supermajority, right? That's one thing. So we need to be using our time just more wisely, more on strategy, more on getting people to register to vote, to actually go out and vote, and to select good candidates. That's what we need to be worried about. All this other stuff, right? And I know the drag show part of the performance was in direct response to Ron DeSantis, talking about, like, how you can't take your kids to drags and all of this stuff, right? Part of this, don't say gay. So, Ron DeSantis attack on, like, the LGBTQ community and drag shows. So that was in response to them. That's another thing Democrats are doing that we don't have time to do, is that we're always spending our precious time responding to Republicans in the foolishness that they sometimes do and the foolishness that they sometimes say, right? So what I need the Democrats to understand is when you're spending your time responding to Republicans, that means that you're not doing your work. Most of the times, that means you're not doing your work. If they think because they had a drag performance that's going to bring more voters to the table, I don't think so. Because the people who support drag shows already, most likely 9 times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10, already support the Democratic Party. So why are you going after people that are already supportive? Yes. Do you want to show that you're supportive of the community? Yes, you can do that and not necessarily have to spend time and money or whatever on a drag show. So I don't understand. I didn't see the value in that, right? Like, I just didn't see the value in that, considering the need for candidate quality, the need for really getting people on board, the need for trying to unify the party in the sense, since we're the big tent party, we have all of these different folks that have all these different ideas on how it is that we're going to be relevant, in 24. So all time should have been spent on that, and not necessarily trying to respond to Ron DeSantis. Because if you're going to spend your time responding to him, you're going to be wasting your time. Because he don't believe half the stuff he's doing. So don't buy into it and don't spend no time responding to him in that respect, particularly when we have other things that are more, I think, important and more effective that we can do instead of messing with that one, responding in that.
So I'm in total agreement. Just like I said in the beginning, I said I didn't see what the benefit was to have. I think it's Martin Sheen is the actor. Is that who was the one that came?
So so he has a little bit of an internet issue, but I'm sure she'll be right back.
Oh,
you'll be right back. Go ahead, because it was a little bit.
Am I okay? Am I good now?
You're good now.
Okay.
You're good now.
Yeah, what I was saying is I agree. Just like how I mentioned in the beginning, I didn't think having a drag show or having someone, an actor, come in from the West Wing. I think it's Martin Sheen. I'm not.
No, it wasn't Martin Sheen. It wasn't him. It was the other guy.
It was the other guy. Okay, so
yeah.
So I'm not sure if that would, not sure. It's not beneficial for us. One of the things that you mentioned, which is really important to kind of amplify, is the knee-jerk reaction of the Democratic Party. Is this constant need to respond rather than be strategic and take whatever information or take what the other side is doing and make sure that we hone into how it's ignoring groups that are disproportionately unrepresented, ignoring specific items. For instance, you can just look at Ron DeSantis's record, and you can use all of that. The Democrats can use all of it to amplify their points as to why many of us here in the state are suffering. So just look at his bill. Just look at the bill that he created or that signed into law with his budget. That budget is the largest budget in Florida's history. And if you see the breakdown of the budget, all of you should be just floored by where the money is going. Just that alone. We have infrastructure issues. Mm-hmm. So I was hoping that I would hear some of those things. I know that you mentioned that they were talking about different agendas and goals that they have, that they're going to, like 3 top ones. But I would love to see that we have to deal with also, I think the Democrats need to hone in and focus on what affects us all collectively, like infrastructure, the budget, all things that have to do with our everyday lives, as we spoke about how we talk about mayors and commissioners, all of them make decisions on our everyday lives, but everyday lives situations. To me, I've been watching how Nikki Fried has been moving in terms of being the Florida chair for the Democratic Party. I'm just not seeing emphasis on issues and messaging to get us into a place where we can be effectively effectively in terms of not competing, but really kind of showing and fighting the good fight. I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing the messaging. I'm not seeing us being aggressive in areas that we need to be aggressive in, and taking stance in areas we need to be taking stance on. So I can't say that I'm impressed by their leadership event. But what I can tell you that if this is indicative of what we're looking to in 2024, I think we're going to have some issues.
Yeah. And so she actually did send out the message, the update yesterday. And it's like she's like, what a weekend. They had over 1,000 people in attendance, 750 people at the gala. They raised about, they were like a big fundraising night. So they did that. And I see the picture of the guy, but again, for whatever reason, my emails are not filtering out the message. Who was on the show, who was the guest speaker. And for me, I hope that he wasn't paid, he came for free, and he made a donation. Okay. So that's all. What is it? Yeah, it was Bradley Whitford. That might be him. That might be him. That
might be it. I'm looking at the email.
You're looking for his face because I have the face. I just couldn't I couldn't see it. Hold on a second. I don't know why I'm stuck on this. It's just that's his name, Bradley Whitford. It was him. He was the guest speaker. And for me, they better have not paid him, and he should have been bringing a check. Because other than that, it don't make no sense, right? Because we don't this paying for star power stuff. No. Okay, the party ain't got no money to give nobody. If you want to, yes, use your star power, use your platform to help, but don't come asking for money too. Like, we don't do that. And matter of fact, bring a check because you can afford to do that. So I'm hoping that was something that he did for the love of the party, for wanting to see Florida go into another direction, as opposed to the fact that he got paid. I don't know if he got paid or not. I'm just saying I hope they didn't pay him to come. And also when he showed up, he came with a check to contribute to the party in order for us to continue to do this work, because what's happening in Florida right now is crazy. Okay,
and that's my point. And that's my point. And that's my point. That's why that's one of one of my major concerns that I didn't see, is that we are ground zero in terms of how all these 200 plus laws have passed that are basically stripping us and bringing us back to when Black people had no rights or whatever. And the fact that they didn't hone in on that and use that and be intentional and strategic with the messaging I think it's problematic, because if this is indicative of what's going to look like in 2024, we have issues.
They're playing to lose all day. They're playing all to day. Lose. Yeah, because it's not gonna happen. And and I one of my brothers is an independent, and like, he's serious about it. He be like, whatever. I mean, and he votes issues and he votes good candidates. That's it, right? He's like, right. So he votes issues and he votes good candidates, and that's where a lot of people are going. And Zaira in the chat is saying that she doesn't think they're connecting the independents and NPAs, and it's true, because one of the things that I hear time and time again is candidate quality. So the Democrats think that they can just go put anybody up, because the Republicans can do that. They absolutely can. Yes. They can go pick up anybody from the street, put an R on their chest, and Republicans are going to vote for them, and they don't care. We've seen it. We see the quality of folks that they have that are in office, but the reality is, like, because they're standing in line and falling in line, they're winning, and then they're making decisions that's affecting everybody's life in a terrible way, right? So, but since Democrats tend to, I'm not going to say we're more smart or more educated, whatever, but at the end of the day, they're like, no, I need you to bring me a good quality candidate, and you got to give me a reason to vote for them, because they're not going to vote for people simply because they're Democrats. And NPAs definitely ain't going to do that. They're not voting for somebody just because of they're a Republican or a Democrat. They're on issue. They're like, who is this candidate? What it is that they're going to do? Can I really believe the words that's coming out of their mouth in terms of what they're saying that they're going to do for the people? Because they want to hold your feet to the fire, that you're going to do what you actually say you're going to do. And that's what we need to do, because the issues that are concerning people have nothing to do with your party affiliation. I mean, it's a party that screwed it up and put everybody in this jam. But Democrats can win on the issues alone. They can win on the issues alone. Vermont, of all places, right, had rain last week. Bridges the roads were falling into the ground.
Okay, up from the flow up. Up from the flow up.
Flooded because it's too much rain and they don't know where the rainwater don't know where to go. Right? These
don't know where to go.
Issues that anybody can relate to. Right? All the way to Vermont, these things are happening. There was some accident on the highway in Philadelphia. I think I talked about this before. And that, yes, it was like, it was a bit of a fire, yes, but it collapsed the highway. So infrastructure
and climate change. If we're not focusing on what we need to be focusing on, this is where we're at. Listen, let me tell another thing about Democratic Party that globally across this country, Democrats need to be able to get everybody in the party in line and make sure that we are all on the same page. You have a Representative Maynard out in Georgia. Did you hear about that? She switched her party affiliation. She is a Democrat, switched her party affiliations to the Republican Party, giving that house a majority.
Well, she probably was a Democrat to start with because
she was a Democrat to start with. Her issue was when she broke rank because she wanted to vote for vouchers, the what we have here in Florida. She was harassed and intimidated by other Democrats. My issue is this. We're always arguing about what our ideology, what our differences are. We all have a collective interest that we should hone in on. And when we talk about the Democrats who are the conservative Democrats, the liberal Democrats, the Bernie's Democrats, we have all these different types of views and all that, but there's always several things that we are collectively affected by. If we can't get together and make sure that what we collectively agree upon to make sure that is our platform, we're always going to be into issues. Mm-hmm. It's this ongoing foolery. So I would have liked to see in the Leader Blue thing talking about climate change, talking about infrastructure, talking about the budget, how the money is trickling down in Florida. I would have liked to hear that.
Trickling down money.
Well, money you're right. No trickling down, but the budget, budget, and talk about what specifically. Right.
And the thing is, like, so because Ms. Lynch is talking about like climate change, right? People don't like that word because the word has been ruined by some Republicans, and when people hear it, they're like, oh no, I don't want to talk about climate change, right? So don't call it that, right? Zara talked about how her house was flooded. Never seen nothing like that. So don't call it climate change. Talk about how, like, when it rains now, you can't leave your house, or if you could leave your house, you can't cross the street, or when it rains, and if you have one of those cars that drive low, because I drive a Camry, so it's low to the ground. If I go into the water that's just a little too deep, my car might stall. Talk about it in terms of that. Talk about the fact that it's 100 degrees outside on a regular. Right. Mm-hmm, and then in response, now that means that people got to rely on AC more and all that kind of stuff. But what do? They raise the utility rates. So now, because you need to have the AC on because it's 100 degrees outside, and if you don't have it on, you're gonna probably die in your house. So what's the response to that, as opposed to giving people a tax break, giving people a credit in order for them to afford to keep their house cool enough for them not to die in their house? They raise the rates. So now it's gonna cost you more to just survive. Those are things that people, no matter what your party affects you and you can relate to, right? Let's talk about this insurance thing. Another insurance company just decided to leave the state of Florida again. You know what that means? That means the ones that are still here are going to be able to charge you more money, because most of us ain't crazy enough to live in a house that's not insured. And then the banks won't let you do it if you have a mortgage anyway. They're going to do that first place, and that'll really break your back. If you complain about what the rates are now. Yep. I had a first place for like 2 weeks, and it practically was the price of the whole friggin' policy for a year. Okay, that wasn't now. That was some years ago. So don't do that. So if you just talk about the issues of concern that people are dealing with, no matter their party affiliation, folks can relate to that. And if you want to stay away from the buzzwords that Republicans have made, like the spooky language, and it's like the boogeyman and that type of stuff, don't use that language. Explain the concept. Tell it to them in a way that's really affecting their lives. And people are going to be like, yo, I dig that. I understand. I can't afford my FP&L bill. I don't need another final notice to come to my house. Because if you got young kids, you can't be in the house with no electricity and no water. DCF coming to see you, right? So people can relate to that. And the cost, like even if you're working every day, 1-2 jobs, you're working every day, you still can't afford your life. If you're living in South Florida, you can't afford your life.
Not in Florida.
I have a decent job. I have decent income. And I'm telling you, I feel like I can't afford my life, right? And my life is not extravagant. I'm going to just let you know. Now, I do have a decent zip code. It's not extravagant. For the amount of degrees that I've invested in myself, I should be able to live like this. And I think I should be able to live like this stress-free. But I'm not, so I can imagine what a person, that's working just regular is dealing with, because it's hard. Those are things that you can connect with people on. Now, what may be the issue for the party is that they better stay away from algorithm thoughts and invest in grassroots local organization to bring that message to the community, because we all know that we need trusted voices to tell people, say, you know what, this person's going to look out, and they need to hear that from somebody they trust. So they got to invest in the trusted voices, and they need to stick to the issues and not be responding to the distractions that Republicans are going to put out in these streets to make us keep our eyes off the prize. And that's really if not even taking over the U.S. House again, but at least making strides in Florida House and Senate, so there's not a supermajority there in 24.
Absolutely. And just to put some things into perspective, Sandra talked about insurance company leaving. Farmers Insurance dropped 100,000 people and counting in the state of Florida, 100,000 people off their policies, right? Inflation, we're talking about inflation. Biden's inflation, when you look at it in terms of the nation, is 4%. Ron DeSantis' inflation here in Florida is 9%. And put those things into perspective, because when you talk about 4% versus 9%, literally people are going homeless in the state of Florida.
Yeah.
Homeless.
Yeah.
People who have jobs that get regular paychecks, who are living, who are considered quote unquote middle class, are going homeless in the state of Florida because of inflation. So you want us to talk about it so people can understand
let's talk about that. So some of them were already homeless, because there's this whole concept of the hidden homeless. Like when you're sharing a house with somebody else and you sleeping on their couch, or your whole family in one bedroom, you're technically homeless. You're just part of what they call that hidden homeless, right? Yes, you do have a roof over your head, but you're homeless because you're supposed to be able to afford a place where you and your family could just go ahead and live there and pay for that. But when you're living, I'm not talking about the multi-generational home situation where grandma really can't live by herself. And as much as we want to send our kids to live by themselves because we don't want to live with them no more, we got to keep them in our house, right? So that's the thing that you legally have to continue to do. So yes, there are some traditionally multi-generation homes. But when you have homes where 2 sets of full families are living in, that's part of that hidden homeless. And those folks are like one bad disagreement between that relative, and they ain't got nowhere to go.
Absolutely.
Right? Because even if you're working now, people who, if you're renting, they want the first, the last, the deposit, the second, with all of this crazy stuff that you got to pay. The thousands and thousands of dollars just to move in. And how are you going to save that money to do that?
And the law has changed. Thank your governor for changing the laws where landlords now can they don't have to necessarily ask you. They can ask you for a deposit, but now what they're doing now is that they can make the deposit on top of your rent, spread that out, and then there's nothing regulating it. They don't have to put a cap when they do it. That can be an ongoing thing throughout your lease. And this is something new that this just came into effect July 1st. When I tell you that these laws, and Sandra, you made a great point by saying talk to people on the level they would understand. You have people who will be in positions now that could never save to purchase a home because now the landlords have decided, and also there's no cap as to how much they can ask you for deposit. They can ask you up to 5-6 months of deposit up front, right? And now they say, well, we can spread that throughout your rent. So now you put people in a position where they can't even save to buy their own home, that there will be perpetual renters. This is
and the other thing that's also happening too is people are leaving the state, because at some point it's you like, okay, Florida, you don't love me, I gotta go, right? Because what are you gonna do? Because you have people who are spending 70-80% of their income on rent, listen, even if you're spending that on a mortgage, that's crazy. But I understand you got to do what you got to do. However, at some point, there's some states, they might be just as ridiculous as Florida, but at least you can afford to live there. You know what I mean? And people are making decisions to leave because it is a lot. It is absolutely a lot. Because I've seriously considered, and I am considering moving too, because when is this going to stop?
You can't afford to live
here.
My
homeowner's insurance go just a more higher than it is right now, it ain't gonna make
and
no
let me
sense.
tell you something. And let me tell you something.
It's just not.
My mortgage insurance has alluded to it going higher since the law has been put in place or whatever. So I anticipate something like that. But here's the thing. So I also want to talk to the groups that constantly vote against their interests. The law passed here in the state of Florida has changed in terms of alimony. I don't know if you all know. But now there's no longer mandatory alimony.
No, I think it's no longer permanent alimony. You can't get
permanent. Excuse me,
permanent alimony.
Permanent. Yes, you can no longer get
like lump sum, bridge the gap,
right?
Those types. Yeah,
you can no longer get permanent alimony. And so those who are currently
you mad at that?
alimony,
I'm a lady, and I don't know if I'm mad at that. No, and let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. Because alimony nowadays go both ways, right? You can be a woman if you end up marrying that dude that don't make as much as you, or you let him chill the last 5 whatever years of your marriage. That man could leave you and be like, "I need you to take care of me for the rest of my life." I don't know about that, son. You know what I'm saying? So because alimony is not necessarily all about all for women anymore, because they're
I get it.
These men will take your check and cash it proudly. Okay,
all day.
Let me tell you.
The only reason why I'm bringing that up is I'm not mad at it either. It doesn't really. It's not a big thing for me. However, there's a group of women, have decided that they believe that this is unconstitutional,
and unconstitutional.
Oh yes. The group of women that keep voting against their interests. Yeah, they feel that it's unconstitutional. They have a problem with it.
Listen, if they can win it, go ahead. But like I said,
I'm just saying. Y'all need to focus. What was it? The 75%? What was the? I can't remember the percentages when I went. I was gonna say a bad word. When I went back crazy after the elections and how I was really honing in on that group. Y'all can't be mad now. Y'all been voting against your interests since the dawn of the day. So you all now all of a sudden when they messing with your money, all of a sudden now you got a problem.
But those guys been messing with their life, and what they don't understand is those guys don't care about nobody but themselves. You know, because that law because one of them ended up having to pay permanent alimony to his wife.
Okay,
and because you've given the legislature, you've given them a super majority, and they can do whatever they want. That's one of the things they decided to do. So they be like, I'm gonna just run for office and win, and then I ain't gonna have to pay no more alimony.
Listen, this is where we at. So I'm glad that we mentioned mentioning things to everybody on the level that they could understand. We're talking about inflation, where people who are you have hidden homeless, but you have people who are going straight homeless. All right, we're talking about insurance companies that are leaving the state, and then you have insurance companies who are dropping people like flies. You have infrastructure issues. We have so many things that we could be really honing in on, and to have a drag show and some celebrity come and speak, I don't think that is beneficial to the party. I think that the party needs to really focus and hone in on. You have enough. DeSantis has given you enough ammo to use to switch up and make sure that we at least flip a few seats in 2024. We have enough.
Flip them seats. Yes.
Flip them. We have enough. He's given us enough ammo, enough ammunition to do it. Period.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
And we should. And we should. And also, you know, Zara's talking about the people with mental health issues. That's a real thing too. And there are folks who was probably okay until the pandemic, right? Because we're all like a little fragile. Like sometimes we're just one traumatic event from like, you know,
absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like you could be as strong as you think and want to be, but however, you know, to think that you're not one tragic event away, which I'm not, you know, we're not, of course, we're not wishing tragedy on anyone, but you never know. Absolutely. Something can happen in your life that you absolutely can't control, and then all of a sudden it just takes you out. Like it takes you out. Like that depression is real. It can take you out. So, you know, people can find themselves, or the fact that we're living paycheck to paycheck, or living in a situation where we don't have a lot of savings. You may have something that happens and you just like, listen, I need a time out. Right? Like you're just like, I can't cope. I need some time to kind of calibrate, just readjust myself, figure things out. And if you can't afford to do that, you can find yourself in a situation where you can be homeless, even though all you need was like, you know what? I just need to take a step back. I can't go to work for a couple of weeks. Give me a couple of months so I could get my life back together, get back on track. And because we can't even afford to do that so often, we can make a situation that might have been manageable worse, because you're continuing to just try to get through those days, even though you really need to take a mental health break to deal with and address everything that's going on. So yeah, that whole mental, it can happen to the best of us, because it's just, and particularly since it feels like we're being attacked in so many different directions.
In different directions, yes.
It's just like, it's like a little thing. People are like, well, that's only that.
Yes.
But it's like it's like, okay, I can manage now. Then something else happened. Okay, I can make that adjustment too. Then something else happened. It's like every time you turn around to try to get a handle on it, something else is happening. That's enough, like I said, to make the most sane of us, you know, just break, because it's a lot to deal with.
It's a whole lot to deal with, and it's unfortunate that you have a governor who is tracing around the globe, well, not the globe, but tracing around this country, you know, running for president and going to other places when we have real issues. I mean, can you believe that we have a malaria breakout in Florida? We have a malaria breakout in Florida.
But you know, that's
it's all over the news.
Is that one of the things we get vaccinated against malaria? No. When you do those vaccines when you're a kid?
I'm not certain. Okay. I'm not certain about that. Okay. But what I'm saying is that it was on CNN, and CNN had the audacity to say we haven't had malaria in this country in over how many years? Now we have a breakout. You have a breakout in the state of Florida. And then not only did they say that, but they said, but then, you know, the governor's out here in different states. He's not even in his own state when there's a breakout. It's the fact that other people are looking at us and saying, okay,
they're saying that's not one of the vaccines we take. But I remember I traveled to Africa in the 90s, and I think I had to do a vaccine for it. That's probably why I'm thinking of it, because for some reason I remember having to do something. Yeah, okay, yeah, because I was going to Nigeria, and I remember I had to get vaccinated for it because I was traveling. Right. There was a whole list of things that I had to do, so that's why I had to do it. Okay,
so getting a shot for malaria is not customary here. But the fact that we have
no, it's not. But I know the reason why I was like, but I remember doing it. But I was going to Nigeria that year, so yeah.
Well, I mean, but the point I'm trying to make is we have real, like, emergency type issues here in this state, and the Democratic Party has enough ammunition to get the point across, and why we should flip the House and the Senate, and also hold these Republican representatives accountable. Remember last week we spoke about the Republicans coming out talking about those in Miami. They were saying, and I sent you a clip, and they gave the exact names of those representatives who had a somewhat quote unquote closed door meeting. They say Bill Gates let out malaria mosquitoes. Some
of the reasons why they say things like that about Bill Gates is his family was really big into eugenics. And I think that's what it's called. I think it's eugenics, right? Where, you know, they want to have, like, you know, only the best of the best survive. So you put things out there to kill off the weak, whoever they may be. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's why his name is always surrounded in those types of things, because he's really, his family was
So
really
I, yeah,
so I think that's the word.
and you know what,
Right.
you know
Okay.
what, Zara, I did see that somewhere on social media, but I didn't know if that was like a thing. But what I do know that
It's
was on
always a thing with him
CNN.
because one of the other things
Yeah.
he did is like during the COVID vaccine, he made a lot of
Mhm.
investments and sent vaccines to different parts of Africa, and people were like, y'all better don't take that, y'all don't know what's in that. So and it's again because his family has this history of dealing with eugenics, so you may not want to trust a person who believes that there's actually some sort of superhuman out there and that they think they have a right or should be able to get rid of people who they think ain't that. So
yeah.
yeah.
So yeah. So we said all that to say that we think that, well, I don't want to say we, but I think that the Democratic Party should do a better job of focusing and honing in on the issues which is there a plethora here in the state of Florida that you can use and really engage people, engage the constituents, because it directly affects them. And when whatever directly affects a person or a group of people, they will be engaged. They want to know what they need to do to get themselves out of it. What do we need to do collectively to get it together? And I think that the Democrats missed that on this Leadership Blue event. Instead, they were too busy trying to respond or directly respond to something that is who Ron DeSantis is. He's just going to be perpetually doing that. It's like at some point you need to understand this is how this man roll, and you understand that we're not trying to match energies with that man. That's not what we're trying to do.
No, that's a distraction. That's taking you off your game.
We're not trying to do that. We're not trying to match energies. We match energies when it's necessary. This is not necessary to match that energy. What we need to be what energy we need to be matching is that strategic energy, okay, and that intentional energy. And I think the Democrats need to really hone in on that, because I'm telling you, if this is indicative of what we're looking at in 2024, we have issues. That's just my thing. Yep, we have issues.
We got to get it together, folks. We got to get it together because it's just a lot at stake, man. It's a lot at stake.
A lot at
like,
stake.
What are they doing? And the other thing that we're gonna talk about, and we're gonna try to wrap it up in the next few minutes, is that immigration bill. That immigration bill is having consequences that these folks did not intend. I'm telling you.
Oh Lord! Can I show the clip? Because I sent you a clip.
And the farmers are like, listen, fix it, okay?
So I sent you a text clip. Let me see if I can open it. Oh yes, I can open it. And I'm going to share the screen, and I want people to hear. Because you mentioned the names of those Republicans, representatives in Miami, and this is a whole segment on them. I think it's about like a 2-minute video. We could do that just so you can hear their names, what they said about this immigration bill, and what the issues are with businesses, companies, all of them really coming down and being very, very adamant about what are we doing here. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to. Let me have that ready and geared up to go before I share my screen.
So Zyra mentioned that they did something similar in Alabama and it didn't go well. They did it in Arizona, it didn't go well. Arizona is practically a blue state right now. So if that turns Florida blue, okay, we're gonna take it. I'm telling you, that is having a lot of unintended consequences.
Unintended consequences. Right. Okay, let me see. Can you see it?
We see it. We just need to know where you at for the.
Okay. Let me see. I'll start, and then I just want the names so you can hear the names, and then we'll cut it off like in 2 minutes.
Republican lawmakers in Florida held an emergency meeting this week where they begged immigrants to please stay in Florida. The state's about to experience massive economic pain thanks to Ron DeSantis, the guy who's running for president. His recent bill targets migrant workers in Florida, and it's really, really bad for Florida, possibly the entire Southeast. Ring of Fire's Farron Cousins joins me to talk about it. Farron, this story is nauseating. If there's somebody that's followed this from beginning to know what these creeps have done behind closed doors, pick it up.
Yeah, what we saw this week was down in Hialeah, Florida. You had 3 Republican lawmakers, and we got to name them: State Representative Lena Garcia, Rick Roth, and Juan Barkeen. Held this meeting in South Florida behind closed doors. They've got their business leaders who are freaked out about the thought of losing all their migrant labor. So these lawmakers get up on stage, and it's all on video, and they tell them, listen, there's no teeth in this bill. It's all for politics. It's all for show.
Right.
So what you have to do is you got to tell your migrant workers don't leave. Tell your migrant workers to tell their migrant friends don't leave the state, because we're all panicked about it. And this is all on video. Thomas Kennedy, reporter from South Florida, caught it all.
So do you think this guy who's running for president didn't know that? Didn't know that this was a show? And then all of a sudden, the construction industry is calling Tallahassee, say, what the hell? What have you done? This is our workforce. We can't build houses without them. We can't put roofs on houses without them. The citrus industry saying, who in the world do you think is going to pick the oranges now? They're calling him. They're calling Republican representatives and say, have you gone frigging crazy? Because what's happening is they understand this. The entire GDP of Florida is going to be in the tank. So now we learn they knew that all along. This was a scare tactic. This was all about the culture wars. We want to out-culture war Trump. We want to look so far to the right that we look like crazy people. Well, he's done it. He looks like a crazy man, and the idiots in Tallahassee look even crazier, don't they?
We can end it there. But let me tell you something. I don't think they knew that was going to happen, because if you see how that bill is written, and I'm an immigration lawyer, so that's why I can say it. I'm an immigration lawyer. You could tell that they don't understand immigration law, and they also did not consult with anybody who understood immigration law. When they decided on the language that they were going to use, the wording that they were going to use, and the consequences that they were going to have for the things that they were doing. So no, I don't think it might have. It's for. I agree. It was culture wars. They were trying to scare people, whatever that means. But we could have used language that wouldn't have been so terrifying to folks that people were moving their families out of the state before the law even went into effect. And then they definitely went too far when they decided they weren't going to recognize driver's licenses that were issued, that were properly and validly issued by other states, right? And then on top of that, you're trying to criminalize relatives for transporting their family members, making them man.
Oh my God! And even in the hospital,
even if the people wanted to stay, the relatives that they were living with, they were like, "You better get out of my house, because I'm not going to jail for you." Okay,
not at all.
They did not have any idea it was going to be this bad, because they didn't talk to anybody that would have given them a better way to probably get the same.
They didn't anticipate that.
Right? They didn't speak to any immigration practitioners. And just a little background on that, right? So the woman who put this bill forward is a woman who lost her son in a car accident, right? It was truly an accident. But the problem was the person who her son got into a car accident with was an undocumented who had re-entered the country. Now, if anyone's familiar with if anybody who does immigration law represent Mexicans re-enter all the time. Half the time they go home for the summer and then they come back. Okay,
come back.
It's that easy to cross the border. Like, listen, and most of them who, like when I say most, I'm talking probably 98% of them, when they come here, all they're coming to do, and they're not criminal aliens, not doing anything wrong or anything like that. And if they do have a criminal record, it's probably for driving without a valid license because they can't get it. But in terms of like serious crimes, that ain't what they're doing. So they all re-enter. That's the easiest place to get deported to and to be able to come back to the United States from. So it may sound like, oh my God, how'd they come back? They always come back. Americans cross the border into Mexico all the time in them border states. It ain't a hard thing to do. It really ain't, right? Because they cannot stop every single car that's coming through and all that kind of stuff, and to make sure everybody that's in the car have papers. So it's a very easy thing to do. It ain't hard as people think, right? So the way they wrote that bill, I don't think they understood or had any idea it was gonna go like this, and it was gonna get that bad. And it did. It really did. It really did. And now they're dealing with the consequence of that. So if they call an emergency session, or when they go back in January 24, if they start repealing some of this, I won't be surprised. I'm telling you, I won't be surprised. There's going to be a lot of economic fallout between now and then, but I wouldn't be surprised if they pull back some of the stuff that they put in there. And what I want to say was that mom, she, you know, I understand you're hurt. You lost your kid. You know what I'm saying? You're hurt. But what we can't do is allow people to legislate feelings, right? Everybody else should be like, I understand you're hurt, but we can't let you punish everybody else for your loss, you know? And
it just can't be.
And this is where we are.
And 80% of, I would say 85% of these bills, these 200 bills or whatever, are all all legislated based off feelings. It's not sound legislation. It's legislation that's political, and it's legislation that is all about making a certain group of people feel comfortable, rather than making sure that the collective are maintained and protected and cared for. So moving forward to this election year that's coming up, people need to be intentional about who they vote for. Look at who you're voting for. Listen to what people are saying to you. Not only listen, but watch when they talk or whatever, because some people can just say two things out the side of their mouth, but see what their track records are. And it's important that people do look at people's track records, because that does give you an indication of who they are. And we are in a state, in my opinion, we are in a state of emergency in the state of Florida. There are laws that are so detrimental to groups of people that the damage is going to be long, year lasting. It's not something that is just, it's just a prolonged prolonged misery. So in order for us to be in a space where that we can mitigate some of that damage, is to flip these seats in August. I'm sorry, flip these seats in November. Make sure that they do not no longer have a supermajority, so we can have a fair and balanced legislation coming out of Florida. I'm just telling you that we are in dire straits. Zara mentioned that her house was flooded. She had never seen that before. That should be a huge indicator as to what Florida is going to look like. You know, we have malaria breakouts. We have, insurance companies leaving the state at an alarming rate. We have insurance companies dropping people. We're in dire straits. People are, it just becomes a place where it's not going to be sustainable for us. It's just not. If people are leaving the state, we're not going to be, we can't afford to let people leave the state. But you have a governor who wants to fight with Disney when we have big issues. You want a governor who want to talk about how, going into a restroom, he has a whole law. If you go into a restroom and you're not, it's not the sex that assigned to you, that's a crime. Who is going to be policing that? We have some of these laws are so abhorrent. I'm not even understanding how people sign their names to it. I'm not understanding that. I'm just not understanding it. I'm floored. I'm floored.
Half of them did that and didn't read it, so they ain't even know. So now they're going back home to like, what? Oh, I didn't know that's what it was gonna do. I just thought it was, And to say it has no teeth, what do you mean? There's consequences. You got some legend. They got people scared to go to the hospital because they said they're gonna ask you your immigration status when you go to the hospital. Who does that? Like, who are you? Who are you guys? Like, who raised you? You'll have immigrants who have children, and their children are sick, deathly sick, and will not go seek medical attention just so they can protect themselves. This is ridiculous. It's outrageous. But people go to the hospital, send you up because the doctors are saying, listen, we're not getting involved in your politics. We're here to take care of folks, and that's what we're gonna do. So they're not gonna refuse anybody care because of their immigration status. Absolutely. And so listen, and there's even the transgender issues. Again, those are things that families need to make on their own, and that issue should not be legislated. That's just not. It's not up to the legislator. Those are personal decisions that families should make. It's the same thing with reproductive health. Why are we getting into that's none of my business. It's none of my business how you raise your child. It's your business, and it's your business, and everything else is the other people's business, right? That's what I'm saying. Like, why are we thinking whatever? To me, it's just like they're so intrusive. Yet they complain about the Republican Party. Government's too big. We can't have government to be. But you all in people's business. I'm confused. It's either you want it one way, or you don't want it the other way. You can't be the party of family values
but yet still, and talk about not having government. You don't want government to be too big, but then you're doing exactly the opposite of what your ideology is.
It's talking about how it's because tax dollars are being used. Tax dollars are being used for a whole bunch of stuff, right? There's some things I can tell you that they're using your money for that people might not be happy with, right? We're like, and we owe everybody money, right? This country is like, you know, in all kind of debt to a whole bunch of places and stuff. But we're sending money to wars that a lot of us are like, why we don't understand, right? So that's tax dollars that are being used. And there's like, for example, don't come for me again. Don't come for me again.
Don't come for us.
The amount of money that's being sent to Ukraine right now,
you better talk about it.
Your mind. It will literally blow your mind. And you'll be like, wait, y'all can't get rid of my student loan debt, and you guys are sending money to Ukraine, and now y'all about to send some kind of weapon over there that be blowing stuff up, and you don't know if it's gonna kill the kids and all that kind of stuff. So our tax dollars go in a lot of bad places. It goes in a lot of terrible places. So if a little bit of it goes to help transgender. I'm sorry, I'm talking over you. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. No, and there's no return on our investment. We're giving Ukraine all this money. Where's the return on investment? Because we are a capitalistic society, right? Where's the return on our investment? That's number one. Number two, that's actually a side issue. But we're spending all this kind of money. You don't want to get rid of. I have a student loan that's over $200,000. Just so y'all know. Okay. I can't get no relief off of that. I don't qualify. All right. But we have people who are going homeless with this inflation. We have people who are in between jobs. We don't fund resources for mental health, but yet still we spending all this bag of money. I know Zaira mentioned about they don't pay for no IVF. And isn't that ironic? You don't touch that part of the thing, but you want to tell me when I can and cannot have a kid, or when I can and cannot deal with my body, or what I do with my kid in my home. That's my problem. And I think that the Democratic Party has enough ammunition to do what they need to do to have great messaging and get people on board. But if you're not going to do that, if you're going to do knee-jerk reactions and respond every time an imbecile makes a comment or makes a gesture or makes this big old thing or whatever so he can look good, or not look good, but just, get the attention that he's looking for, we don't got time for that. We don't got time for that. Y'all need to get it together. Get it together.
All right, so I'm part of that IVF tribe too. Okay, so I have some IVF babies. My twins are techno twins, so I understand. And no, they don't pay for it. And even when you got insurance ain't trying to pay for that either. So it's a whole lot of out of pocket happening there. You know what I mean? So I relate. Listen, I'm part of that tribe. And then once you've done that, there's some insurance policies you can't get at all because you become uninsurable. I was uninsurable because I had preterm labor during my pregnancy. Mind you, even though the policies didn't pay for maternity. I'm like, you ain't even paying for maternity. So how is it that I got a pre-existing medical condition that y'all won't cover me for? So I had to get it, get insurance. So part of the reason why I have job, now they've gotten rid of the pre-existing condition, not during a Republican administration. That was during the Obama administration that he got rid of, not insuring people because of pre-existing conditions. So I was able to get insurance, but it was very expensive. So that's part of the reason why I have a job right now, is so I can have insurance, Mm-hmm. So yeah, that health
my insurance. Remember the last time we were out with Nikki Fried when she was running, and I said that same day I fainted, right? My insurance, I have to have, my deductible has to reach $20,000 in order for me not to come out of the pocket. I barely scraped that. I fainted. I didn't eat that day or whatever. I fainted and I had to go to the hospital. Went to the hospital. That stay, I was at the hospital for literally 7 hours, from, 6 in the evening to maybe midnight or whatever the case is, right? That cost me $13,000 that I have to pay out of my pocket because I did not meet that $20,000 threshold. I'm just saying, we have real issues here. We have real issues, and I'm glad that you mentioned, Sandra, that we need to talk to people where people can understand. This is what we're talking about. So now I'm in debt. I have to pay this off. I can't pay it off all at once. I got to pay it off in increments, right? So that's another debt on top of what we got going on. People are struggling. Sandra, you mentioned that every time people feel like they're getting themselves together, whatever, something else happens or whatever. And this is where we at. This is where we at. So the Democratic Party, you need to be able to see those
The
things.
issues are on your side.
The issue aside.
The issues are on your side.
We
And
couldn't
on
do it
Chris
any better if
Stanton
we
talking
wrote
about
it ourselves.
They ain't gonna represent my babies. They're gonna be like, these kids too rude. Get them out my house. We don't want them. They would send mine back and they did come get them. They'd be like, nah. We ain't about this life. You can have your kids back. Because he said they had to take out a loan, while they were doing the it's very expensive.
Right.
And I won't even say, I'm not even gonna tell y'all how many cycles I went through before it actually happened. It wasn't the first cycle. I'm talking I was deep into the cycle.
Those things are expensive. They're very expensive. And the fact that that we're spending tax money on all kinds of other stuff. This is indicative of this country. This is what we do. They're always spending money on stuff that really doesn't really kind of benefit the people. But
if it does, they don't do a good job explaining it. So if there is some real good reason why you need to send all this money to Ukraine, they really should explain that to folks. Absolutely. And then they also need to find a way to balance it out. Don't go saying, we don't have no money for like student loan relief or debt relief or reproductive rights or whatever. But then you, in the next breath, you're signing off $40 billion, $100 billion, all this kind of money to send somewhere else. That's not how this should be done.
It shouldn't be that way. And again, it's not like, and don't come for us. It's not like we don't have sympathy for the people in Ukraine. That's not the issue. But you got to take care of home first. What did they say when you're on a plane? Make sure you put the mask on your face first, and then you can go ahead and help somebody else. Yeah. We over here dying. Okay, we have issues here.
But they explain to you why, but at least on the plane, they explain to you why they want you to take care of yourself first before you can take some care of somebody else, right? So explain to us why y'all need to do that, and then maybe people might understand it. But until you do, it just sounds like you could cancel my student loans for me. It ain't because you ain't got no money. Don't tell me it ain't because you got no money. You got money, and so just
that's what it sounds like to me.
Like you got some money.
Sound like to me.
All right, y'all. Thank you for hanging in there. Guys, so we've been in here for an hour. Thank you.
Yep, we appreciate y'all. Come check us next week. As
next week is the 19th. On. Are you?
Oh yeah. Oh no, next week I'm not going to be here. Yeah, next week we're gonna have we'll do a rerun of one of our shows.
But we may record one earlier, and
Yeah, I'm thinking that we should do that. Record. But don't forget to make sure you check your voting status, because the voting laws has changed.
Oh, and the other thing, when you said voting, so they were trying to pass a law to make it hard for third party to help people register to vote.
Yes.
There's been an injunction on that because they're like, you're crazy. It's unconstitutional. So there's been an injunction. So that part of that law has not gone into effect in terms of like helping somebody register to vote. So that part didn't go into effect.
However, what did go into effect is those who are if you have elderly your elderly parents or uncles and whatever, what did go to effect is sometimes some of them may put the same ballot in the same mail and then send it off by accident. Well, those two ballots will not be counted. So they have to make sure that they use their own ballots, their own sleeves, make sure that they sign it, and so their vote can be counted. So they are chipping away at things that would normally, still kind of count the ballot, but now they're making it very difficult. So just please pay attention to some of the new laws. Make sure you check your voting status. If you haven't done it, do it today. Remember, they changed it where you have to apply for your mail-in ballots every year. So do that today. And we will continue on the pressure, because remember, voting matters.
Elections have consequences.
Okay. And so we need to make sure that we pay attention to what we're doing. And also, for those who are watching, know that we have collective interests, and the collective interest is bigger than all of us, but it affects us all directly. And if we focus on that and stop focusing on our differences, we can be in a position that we all get what we need. But if we're going to be focusing on, somebody said it was yellow and then now it's blue, or tomato, we ain't got time for that. That's just distraction. So let's focus on our collective interests, what affects us all, and then we can make sure that we look at those candidates with those lens. That's the important message there. All right. We'll see y'all. We'll see y'all next week. Week after. But we thank you for hanging with us. We appreciate y'all, and we wish you all safe summer. Stay indoors if you can. It's real hot.
It's hot.
It's hot.
And thank you, Dog Loving Tribe. Shout out to y'all. Got my dog back.
I'm so happy. Send me a picture of Princess when you bring her
Yeah,
home,
when
girl.
we get her. She's gonna be glad.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right.
Thank you, Chris
Bye.
Cantor.